Okay, two of the ancestors. And I'm going to begin with the medicine wheel, the one we've been using in this series. Because there's lots of medicine wheels, and the chaos position is something like that. We dance between them. And that's not a superficial thing. It could be a superficial thing. Oh, I have a bit of this medicine wheel, a bit of that medicine wheel. But no, it's not like that. The chaos position, by not over identifying with any particular way, helps us see those individual ways more deeply. It's the opposite of a superficial thing because we no longer write it in stone. So this medicine wheel that I'm using has the ancestors in it in the southeast. But that's just that medicine wheel. So if we go, well, that's that medicine wheel, but not that medicine wheel, it's like we hold it lightly. We take it seriously. We take it as being true. We don't go, oh, it's not really true, because you can see it in another way over there. No, it really is true. The ancestors really are in the southeast, which I'll go into in a minute. But it's not a literal truth. It's a deeper truth than literal truth, if you like. For us, absolute truth is literal truth. You know, that is a rock. The sky is blue. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Those for us are real truths. But the deepest truths are imaginative. Yeah. Because who we are most deeply is, if you like, imaginative. Yeah. Otherworldly. This world is a product, if you like, of the other world, of the dreaming. The dream, that's also on the medicine wheel. And maybe I'll do a piece on that. So it's more deep when we can hold it in that way because we connect it with it as an imaginative truth rather than the literal truth. And so it can go more deep rather than less deep, which may seem slightly paradoxical. But that's what I've kept emphasizing, that chaos does not lead towards superficiality, it leads towards more depth. And it enables us to understand as well because we have points of comparison. Oh, this wheel has it like this, and this wheel has it like that. And we always gain in knowledge when we can compare. Knowledge, in a way, comes from comparison. So, the ancestors. On the medicine wheel that I use, they come, there's an intermediate point. We haven't talked about intermediate points earlier in this series, but the ancestors come between east and south. East is, if you like, that point of conception, and the south is childhood. You know, us as a physical being. Whereas in the East, if you like, we're a magical being that's just begun. And part of our incarnating is the ancestral inheritance. Yeah? So between birth and childhood, you have the ancestral inheritance. So there's the sense in it. That's how you make sense. It's not just a random point. It actually makes sense from the point of view of the cycle of life. Because the wheel is all about cycles, because life is all about cycles. Astrology sees life in that sort of way as well. It understands cycles. People have always seen life as cycles, except nowadays where we see it as something linear. So the ancestral inheritance, it's family, but it's also cultural. And I'll be heading more into the cultural in this one. But just to look at the family one, I did, in a way, talk about that to some degree in the first one. I talked about how our parents give us stuff to struggle with. Normally, I mean, maybe for many people, that ancestral inheritance, it just shows us who to be, what sort of person to be. a lot of people, they're quite happy with life as it presents itself and the options that have been given with them, and they get on with it. You know, their dad was a farmer, so they're going to be a farmer, and they'll do a farmer. They'll do whatever their dad did, yeah, and they'll be with the sort of people that their parents were with. It's it's their tribe, it's their people, and they just accept it all, and that's kind of normal, and that's good. It's a gift to be able to have that given to us, something that will help us live and show us how to live. But for some of us, that ancestral inheritance becomes something more to grapple with because, of course, it's full of holes. Yeah. And our ancestors were weird because everyone's weird. If you get to know anyone, they're unique and particular in absolutely everything they do. And a bit wonky as well, and full of strange ideas. We're all full of strange ideas about ourselves and about other people, and you name it. So, in a way, we're trying to be a bit more whole, a bit more conscious, we're trying to live from spirit rather than the collective inheritance. Yeah? We're trying to do both because we appreciate the collective inheritance. But our ultimate authority, if you like, our ultimate guidance, it comes from spirit, something outside of any particular tribe or tradition. But we're not setting them up in opposition. Well, we do tend to these days, you know, the counterculture and all of that. You know, we set ourselves up in opposition to the establishment and to CEOs and capitalism, you name it, yeah. But really, it shouldn't be like that. Spirit needs to meld with the collective because those collective things, they keep life going. They put the food on our table, yeah, they put roofs over our heads. So we have this relationship with the ancestors and the inheritance that comes with it to be grappled with, to be both appreciated and wrestled with, and to be grateful for that wrestling it gives us. So yeah, the medicine wheel shows us as if it's like it gets plonked in on us. We're very open, you know, when we've just been born or we're in the womb, we're very open to all these influences, and they give us a shape, they give us a structure, they give us an exoskeleton, if you like. Yeah? We still have our own endoskeleton, and we come into relationship with that exoskeleton. And opposite in the southeast, opposite the southeast is now let's see if I can get this right, the northwest. Yeah? And that's the place of karma. So ancestors and karma. There's a line between them. Yeah? Because through the ancestors, we pick up all these ways of being. That's our karma, our family karma. And we're maybe born into that family because we already have that karma. Maybe we've been born with them for thousands of years, and we've built up these thought forms and these habits. And our job is to become conscious of that and work out what's useful and what isn't useful. And it also brings up the area of, well, how much did the ancestors shape us? In a way, in our culture, we've gone, well, the ancestors don't really exist after they're dead. But when they're alive in the form of our parents, they fundamentally shape who we are. The so-called parental fallacy, which I talked about in an earlier episode. So, how much did the ancestors shape us? That's something we need to rethink in our culture. We need to take on board that ancestral inheritance, but not over-egg it. As Wordsworth, the poet, says, our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life's star, cometh from afar and hath had elsewhere its setting. So we come from the infinite. We come from, well, he puts it, we come from God, who is our home. Yeah. We come trailing clouds of glory. There's something deep in us, essential in us, that's nothing to do with that ancestral inheritance. That is our own light, our own glory. And then it mingles, as it has to, because we're being born. It has to mingle with this world and with the people that we're born among. So who we are essentially is not that ancestral inheritance, but it has contributed deeply to who we are. It shows us how to navigate in this world, how to be in this world. But if that's all we are, then we're in that forgetting. Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting, as Wordsworth says. We forget that we come trailing clouds of glory. That's the point he's making, one of the points he's making, as well as opening up this vision of who we are in this grand way. I mean, it has become almost axiomatic that any kind of tribulation we have now can be explained in terms of our parents and how they were, or some aspect of our childhood. And we can go back and find a story around that. But really, it's a mystery. We can explain it to some extent, but really, it's a mystery. We come trailing clouds of glory, but we also, I think, we bring our tribulations with us as well, particularly if you bring the Buddhist perspective in of, you know, this karma that rolls on from lifetime to lifetime until we've kind of processed it all. I mean, we might make it worse in this lifetime. We have choice. It's not automatic that it moves on. So yeah, there's something to be thought through here quite deeply around who we are and the ancestral contribution, and holding that lightly, as everything needs to be held lightly. We want to write things in stone. It gives us certainty. We think it gives us a kind of existential security, but just hold it lightly, and therefore more deeply, and therefore take it more seriously, precisely because we're holding it lightly. We do have this ancestral inheritance. It does go deep. Appreciate that. And yet hold it lightly. And yet really have this deep remembering that there's something in you that is the great spirit, that is the great mystery, is full of beauty and power and awe, that has nothing to do with that. That's kind of, it lives outside time and space. It's eternal. And the ancestral inheritance, if you like, it's a gateway for us into this life. It shows us how to live. And there's gratitude to be had for it, but we need to, you know, like the Incredible Hulk bursting out of his clothes when he comes into his power. Yeah, it's like that. We burst out of that. We burst out of that inheritance, that immediate inheritance, the bits of it that limit us, the bits of it that keep us in that collective way of thinking and being, even though it has its place. And we don't want to look down on it too much because it's necessary. At the same time, we burst out of that inheritance. We grapple with that karma, because it's not just something that's been done to us. It's also something we've brought with us as well. You know, we probably don't just land in these families randomly. The karmic challenges we maybe find through being in that family reflect, they mirror to a large extent something we've brought with us anyway. If you felt disempowered by one of your parents, well, maybe you came in with that disempowerment. And that's why you feel disempowered in relation to that parent. Maybe your other siblings didn't. Maybe it is also something to do with them and something they did. But there may be your worthy opponent Look at your parents as your worthy opponents. They reflect what's in you. Yeah, it's out there for you to grapple with. It's much easier when it's outside of you to be grappled with. And also the gifts. Let's not forget the gifts, the straightforward gifts. Yeah? The things you're good at. Well, think about the things your parents were good at. And that maybe encouraged that. Helped it unfold. So it's a big mixture. It's a big contemplation. This family thing, this family ancestral thing, be with you your whole life. It's always there to be sort of mulched and brewed and cooked and thought upon and reflected upon from the perspective of something much deeper in you that's timeless, that's eternal. Okay,